obviously we were calling 2013 a deal that didn't actually go through.
Yeah.
At the time, Peter Odemwingie obviously was playing for West Bromwich Albion, and
Top player.
he wanted to move to QPR. A lot of people may not know you were his agent at the time. I mean, there's a lot of stories. The media outlets have interviewed Peter Odemwingie. Media outlets have interviewed West Brom on the matter. I'm sure QPR have had their say on it, but not many have heard your perspective on that day. Would you like to break down what happened to us and then kind of give us a bit of background?
No, I think what happened, it started off like any other transfer, you know. I mean, I have to be very careful of what I say.
Of course.
You know, but it started off like any other transfer around. You know, you kind of, the player's identified by the club want to move on the player, the two clubs are put together, they are having a conversation. Once they agreed on a deal, then the player is informed, and then the player, you know, has that opportunity to say, well, you know what, as well as his parent club have that opportunity to say, you know what, we like him, we appreciate him being top goal scorer for the last 2-3 seasons, scoring goals left, right, and centre. So therefore, we see a real value in this kid staying at the club because he's a real asset to us. You know, I think Peter, if I'm not mistaken, is right up there with, you know, I like to call Sir Cyril Regis, you know, in terms of his goal scoring and the impact that he had on the club as a centre forward. So if you know you have that level of striker at your club, you know, again, it's down for you to make sure you maintain that. But if a club don't, or if the club feel as if that, you know, maybe the player is best suited elsewhere, then they will look to get the best money from him. And that was what Peter's case was. They wanted to, you know, receive the best money for him and wanted to do a deal. And, you know, we looked at that and it was a situation where, you know, once we sat with Pete and we spoke to him and his family, was a case of, okay, well, this is where we are and this is our options and this is our possibilities. You know, and when you have another club and a manager that, you know, really spoke highly of the player, really wanted the player and really wanted to build his team around the player, I always believe that's a great thing because you're not going there as a third choice, a fourth choice, a second choice. You're going there as the choice, the man that we want you to come to our club. So we looked at that amongst others, and we felt that was the best opportunity, and you know, we exercised that, and you know, we looked at pursuing that move in a way that was correct and proper and all above board, I must add, you know. And I think, you know, certain things happened away from negotiations and away from my control, which inevitably made the deal fall through. And it was something that up to today, you know, it still sticks in my throat and is a very negative experience for me, because what happened and the way it happened and the way it transpired after that, I was, and my team and my brand and the people that was working exceptionally hard for Peter was made to look very, very negative and very, very poor to the public, when the fact of the matter is we did everything right. There was no curveballs that we threw. Everybody knew what was going on, from the selling club to the buying club, to fees, to, you know, everything that was a factor within that transfer was dealt with and done correctly. For it to be, if you like, scarpered off, for it to go south the way it did was very, very sad. And I think that is one day, that's something that I'm really going to get into, because I think that for the first time, I actually saw a person go from Superman to, you know, Superman having kryptonite in his pocket. He you know, and that's the side of, that's the lasting memory for me, because this was a player that, for me, didn't deserve that. He had out of 3 fantastic years at West Brom, played a massive part in the club's history, and it was down for them to retain him. and they didn't choose to do so, but yet they chose to sell him. But, you know, what happened was events that happened away from football, away from the transfer, away from myself as an agent, away from anything that we could have done, which ultimately affected his deal, which, you know, I'm sure your listeners and everybody's going to be screaming, saying, what was it, Ed? What was it? But I think we will get into that at a later date. But I just want to state that it was nothing to do with what was reported in terms of, you know, Peter Odemwingie's agent takes the player out of the club. And first and foremost, anybody that understands football will know to try and get into a training ground, a Premier League training ground, is one of the hardest places to get in the whole world. There's security after security after security. And if your name's not on the list, you're not coming in. Facts, okay? So for us to go in and for us to have the conversation and for us to meet the people that we met and the decision makers that we met and discuss the deals that we met and agree the transfer fees that we did and have the two clubs agree, and to the point of where the player emptied out his locker, told his family that we was leaving. It just left a bitter taste in my mouth that it all went sour because of events that, if I'm being brutally honest, Peter suffered from through no fault of his own. And, you know, you get mindless idiots that feel that they can say anything they want to you, anytime that they want to you, regardless of who you're with, whether you're with your family, whether you're with your wife, whether you're with your kids. They feel that because you play for their club and you're earning a wage or you're a celebrity, and they feel they can treat you anyway. And I think Pete, being a human being, didn't take favorably to that, and anyone could understand that. And I think he reacted in a way which 99.9% of us would have, and it was something that came back to bite him very, very badly. And you know, myself, you know, it left a massive bit, well, huge bitter taste in my mouth from the club's perspective in terms of the way we was portrayed. And listen, let's have it right. If I was taking a player out of West Brom, being a top goal scorer, taking him out of the club to bring him to London, there's a lot of London clubs we could have taken him to before we end up going to where we was going to, put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot more money we could have earned from going to other clubs in London that we would have earned going to where we ended up to. So, which should tell you, we should tell the real fans and real people that understand football and your listeners that, you know, this deal was done correctly and it was done properly, because I'm telling you now, no player ends up at a club that a manager or his parent club doesn't know he's gone. Just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Regardless of whatever is put in the paper, it just doesn't happen, you know. And it never happened in this occasion, but we was made to be the bad guys, and, you know, we was made to be the scapegoats. And, you know, you put it down to a lesson learned, and, you know, you kind of lick your wounds, and as hard as it was at the time and what it cost me at the time in terms of a friendship and a brother and someone that I had a lot of, you know, I have a lot of love for, and we had a great relationship. And, you know, I know his family exceptionally well. It cost me a massive relationship with him, and I don't think he was the player that he was after that.
In terms of your clients and how football is going today, something that has been quite rather unwelcome in football is racism, obviously. And I know you're very passionate about the topic. I've spoken to you before about this, and I know how much you would love to combat racism, especially in football. In terms of your clients, have they had any personal experience with racism within the game at all, that they've come to you and spoken to you about?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I'll be a liar, Rand, if I said to you and your listeners that they've never, you know, players of colour have never experienced that. You know, I'll be a liar if I said that. I think, you know, your fans wouldn't respect, you know, your show. They wouldn't respect me. And I think, you know, if I'm if I'm being honest, we have experienced that. I know there's been times where I've been at the games and to watch my player, and you behind you when you're sat there, you got fans screaming all sorts of abuse, and you turn around and they kind of catch themselves and go, "Oh, gee, sorry, not you, mate. We're talking about them." Really, so it's something that is rife in the game. It's something that it's been there for a long, long time, and you think in this day and age and where we are right now, it should have been better. And it is a lot better than what it was, but at the same time, in the last few years, it has reared its ugly head again to the point of where it's almost taken us back to, the days of John Barnes getting the banana thrown at him. You only have to look at recent times with what happened to, Aubameyang getting bananas thrown at him.
There was the incident in Portugal as well, wasn't there?
There was the incident in Portugal with the players. I mean, that incident in Portugal for me, I think we can do a whole story about it. And, and I say that because we want to eradicate racism out of football, okay, at every level. And I'm a massive believer, and I've had long debates with friends and colleagues and about, especially being a person of color and how I would react to it. And I think for me, I don't believe in this 3 strike rule that the FA has got going on, and I understand what they're talking about in terms of turn the other cheek and, carry on playing through it. But wait a minute. Why should I have to go through that level of abuse because I play football? You won't go through that level of abuse to go to work in any other job, black, white, pink or blue. So therefore, why you expect to swallow it and suffer it because you play football? Think about it. Let me leave you and your listeners with that level, that thought. Why should you suffer racial abuse because you go to work and do a job? Why does anyone feel empowered to be able to racially abuse you and your family? This is where we are now. They're abusing people's families, right? And on top of that, you go back to the incident in Portugal, okay? You got players, teammates saying to a player that's been abused to a level where he feels as if that, you know what, I can't put up with this anymore, because guess what happens? That player retaliates. He's now looked at as the bad guy. He's now looked at as the aggressor, right? He's saying, okay, I'm going to walk off. His teammates are saying, no, come back and play. The people are saying, come back and play. They've not been affected by this. They don't have in the stands their son, their mum, their wives, their girlfriend, seeing them go through this level of abuse. So therefore, how dare you tell me to carry on playing football? Because if I play football, I may leave something on that geezer that's going to end me up in a lot of trouble. Okay? So therefore, the only way I can deal with it, if the referee's not helping me, the fourth official's not helping me, if no one's helping me, I'm just going to walk off. And I fully back that, because why should somebody have 3 attempts to racially abuse you before something's done? Because these same people that would racially abuse you, 9 times out of 10, they would never say anything to you if they walk past you on the street. You see? But in that environment, in that cauldron, they feel empowered. They feel they have the right to be able to speak to you in any way and anyhow, and tell you that this, or make monkey chants, or, spit at you, throw bananas at you and stuff. I mean, where does it end? So you're telling me someone gets 3 opportunities to do that while your son's in the crowd, while your wife is in the crowd, while your daughter's in the crowd, while your mother's in the crowd? And on top of that, you have to sit there and think, well, if they're doing this to me here, what would they be saying to my family upstairs? You have all these kind of things go through your psyche. So for me, I understand and I commend the players that say, well, I want to play for it. But for me personally, don't give people a chance, because at the end of the day, 3 chances is 3 chances too many. Soon as someone does it, done, get out. Done. Because you'll soon see that if they continue to do it and they ban games and postpone games because of that, people will police themselves, because some fans have come to generally watch and support their team, regardless of race, color, class, or creed. But if you've got them mindless few idiots that want to dish out racial abuse because they feel empowered for that one day, for that 90 minutes, and go back to their miserable existence, yeah, why should they get away with it? And why should you suffer? And why should you be left with that mental trauma? To feel worthless?
Sorry to cut you off there, Eddie. Why do you think, like we've spoken about the stance that I think Porto's player, I think his name is Musa Marega, I think.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
He took. Do you think that's something that players in England should be doing as well?
100%. 100%. And I think for me, you know, I'm very vocal on this situation, because I feel, you know, we need to, when I say we, I mean players of colour need to have more of a presence and more of a backbone when it comes to these situations. Because what I see and what I hear is that, you know, one of your black players or one of your players of colour could be getting racially abused, whether they're black, you know, whether they're black, Chinese, Indian, or whatever, they're getting racially abused. And you are sat there and you know this is happening. And you're sat there saying, well, it's not affecting me, so therefore I'm just going to pretend I can't hear it. When you know what's going on, and when you know it's affecting your teammate, so therefore, where do you draw the line? Where is your loyalties as a person? So therefore, you need to make sure that you take matters into your own hands. And I know Gary Neville's spoken up about this when Ashley Cole had situations at England. He sat there in the change room thinking, we know this is wrong. I know people that I've worked with and I've, you know, represent that said to me before, and Ed, I knew this was happening, but I can't go and say something because, you know, who am I? Well, if we all have that approach, this ain't never going to get sorted. And I think this is where we are now. You know, only now.
In that particular instance, how have you dealt with your clients when they've come to you to complain about?
First and foremost, I have to listen to what they have to say.
Racially abused.
I have to listen to what they have to say, because if it's something that they feel so strongly about, that they have to tell me about it, that's keeping them up at night, that's affected them, that's affected their families. This is no joking matter. You know, you have physical abuse, you have mental abuse, and racial abuse is one of the worst things you can go through as a person of color. You know, it makes you feel less than human. It makes you feel less empowered than anybody else. It makes you feel worthless. It makes you feel like something that's ends up on the bottom of your shoe that a dog would leave, you know, lying in the street, you know. So therefore, why should you feel like that? That's not what you're getting paid for. That's not what you signed up to do. So therefore, why should you go through that? There's no one one person in this world can tell me that, you know what, just suck it up. Suck it up to what level? And the people that will tell you to suck it up, guess what? They've never been through it. They don't know what it's like, you know? And I know there's that element of, you know, don't let them win. But guess what? When the rule makers are saying, well, you know, carry on playing after somebody's abused you all game, making monkey chants and throwing bananas at you. Not every player is the same. Not every player thinks with the same mentality. Not every player has that experience or that wisdom to go, or the shoulders to go, you know what? He's an idiot. I'm just going to carry on. I'm going to stick one in the back of the net. Great. If you have that about you, more power to you. But if you don't have it and you believe it's your choice and you're right, get off the pitch. And every single person, from coaching staff to playing staff to anyone around that football club, should support you. To owners, to chief execs, they have to support the player, and they have to come out and make it be known that we do not condone this. We absolutely despise it. We don't want this happening at our football club. Not make nonsense tie-eye announcements that people can't hear because they're beard up and they're singing over it. What is that going to do? That's just box ticking exercises. But guess what? They are going to take notice of. If they abuse the Dele Alli and Dele Alli turns around and says, you know what, sod this for a game of soldiers, I'm walking off. Harry Kane walks off and everybody walks off and Jose walks off behind them. The crowd is going to police themselves. Yeah? So therefore, that person or that group of people, the mindless idiots that are making these offensive gestures and are making these chants, they're going to know that, listen, I can't come back next week with the same attitude, because if I do come back, I'm going to be in for it. The game's going to get abandoned because of me. And if that starts happening and the club starts receiving massive fines, not £20,000, not £30,000, not £100,000, what's that going to do to a club? They probably won't even see that going off their balance sheet. But if you're imposing and you're giving suspensions and you're giving fines and you're dropping points, and that's the difference between you ending up in the Champions League position or Europa League position, or you staying up or you getting relegated, then guess what happens, Ram? You're going to take that seriously. Why? Because it's affecting your pocket as a chairman, as a football club, as to who you can bring into your club, as to what signings you can make. You see what I'm saying? And I think from there, that's the only time you will really have a grip on it or a hold on it to the point of where, you know, fans will take it seriously. Because I think, you know, I know people like Paul Cannonville that I respect highly, and is someone that is a trailblazer for black footballers that went through a horrendous situation how many years ago. And when you sit there and you think about it, not much has changed. Not much has changed, you know? And that situation that Paul Cannonville ended up going through cost him his livelihood and had a massive impact on him up to date. So nobody can sit there and tell me that this is just words. This is something that, you know, mindless idiots say. Because if it's mindless idiots, then the people that are of same mind and are of the persuasion that they want to basically eradicate this, then they will do something about it. Not one or two people, not Gary Neville talking about what a black person's going through, not John Barnes coming out and saying one or two things. It's got to be a collective. It's got to be a collective, like what they did in the NBA. When one of the owners from, I think is LA Lakers, Clippers, made an offensive gesture about one of his playing staff or to a person of color, everyone in the league said, you know, we're not playing Lakers. And when LeBron James says he's not playing Lakers, guess what's going to happen? So not Lakers and Clippers, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to follow him. And we don't have that here. And if Raheem Sterling turns around and saying, I'm not singling out Raheem Sterling because he's a top guy and he's doing amazing things. But just imagine if a Raheem Sterling turns around and says, you know what? I ain't playing today. I'm not injured. I'm fit. I could play, but I'm not going to play because I'm not putting up with that abuse no longer. Wow, guess what happens? Fernandinho goes, you know what? I'm not playing. Yeah? Jesus says, I'm not playing. Aguero turns around and says, you know what? I can't play because I understand where he's coming from. Edison says, you know what? I'm not playing too, Gaffer. You don't have a team to put out. Fans don't have a team to cheer. So therefore, you end up policing yourself and nothing's going to be done. You can put all these stupid fines, all these stupid sanctions, all these stupid, absolute nonsense, worthless. I put a pound to a penny if black players all got together and turned around and said, you know what, we're not having this. We're going to boycott the game. We're going to boycott the game. We're not playing this weekend, Gaffer. All black players up and down the country. You will see how quick this situation will be eradicated from sport. You will see how quick fans will start policing their own games. You will see how quick the rule makers will put rules in place to protect that. Why? Because it affects their revenue. Yeah. You know, we're talking about getting the Premier League played because we want to see the rest of the league finish. Bullshit. The Premier League don't need the money. They don't need people in the fans. They don't need the fans. Stadiums could end up empty for like years and they will still be able to make revenue. But the problem is they need the money and they owe something like £800 million from now to the end of the season. So therefore, they're going to put people lives at risk to play games. Imagine that we got a pandemic going on and people are talking about football. This is what you have to deal with. This is what you have to understand. You know, but yeah, if a player's getting abused about his color to the point of where he's emotionally and physically, mentally traumatized, but yeah, he's asked to go and suck it up and pat on the back, go and play, show them you're a top player. Nah, sorry, it's not happening. So I can't see it changing until black players make a real stand for themselves and they all get together and turn around and say, you know, we're not doing this, and we don't care what fines we incur, we don't care what sanctions we incur, because guess what? We respect ourselves more than any fine you can give us. And it will be a movement that fans will start policing themselves, because they know 9 times out of 10, black players will, you know, the players of color or the black players in the team, they would have a big impact on the starting 11. So therefore, if you're missing, you know, a Raheem Sterling, if you're missing Aubameyang, if you're missing, Didier Drogba, Paul Pogba, guess what's going to happen? And these players are fit. People, managers will be out there, centre circle with a microphone, begging on his knees for them to behave themselves. And until that happens, my friend, we're going to continue to go through this. Facts. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, you know, you talk a lot about the mental state of a player and the well-being of a player, which is obviously primary to you as an agent. As fans, obviously, we see players go out on the pitch, and if they don't perform to the level that we expect, you know,
there you go.
We're
quick to jump on
it personally, but you know, we hurl abuse at them. You know, we don't consider what they're going through personally. But as an agent, how do you ensure that you gain the trust of your client and make sure that, you know, they're mentally in a good place?
Well, first and foremost, gaining the trust is like with anything, is relationships, you know. You know, from whether you go into a relationship with your partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, is about trust and building that relationship. So that relationship is built over years and over a period of time where, you know, that the client believes in you, you believe in the client, and you're there able to talk freely because we all at the table want the same thing. So that's first and foremost. And that's done over a period of time and over going through situations as well, good and bad, and making sure that, you know, the client always knows that you're there for them. And, you know, you go through and you share experiences. But I think, you know, that's the first thing. And I think going back from there is always about trying to make sure that they are safe and well, because if a client is not mentally in a good place, there's no way he or she is going to be able to play at the levels that they once did, or the levels that is expected of them, you know. So you got to make sure that if your relationship with that player is good and you're able to speak to that player freely and honestly, that's the key, honestly, then you would always have that relationship with a player where he will come and confide in you and tell you things that he probably won't tell anybody else. And I have that with probably all of my players, where we have an open relationship where they can tell me probably certain things that, you know, family members won't know, you know, because they know they have that trust in me. They know I don't want anything from them other than their success, you know. So therefore, it's a lot easier sometimes to talk to me than it would be to talk to a family member. So, but again, that's built up over years, and that's built up over situations, and that's built over, you know, ups and downs, and them knowing that they can confide in you, and them knowing that they can tell you, and it will stay between you and them, regardless of whatever situation will come up and whatever and however the relationship will go.
For young players, especially, you know, young talented players who probably don't know too much about the contractual side of the negotiations that take take place with a football club. What part do you play to ensure? I remember you spoke earlier in this interview that you don't just ensure that they're getting the best possible deal at present. You try and sort out their future as well. I mean,
Sure.
what part do you play to ensure that all the intricate details within a contract are met to the liking of that player? And
I think that's my role. That's a role of an agent. Essentially, that's a role of an agent, to be able to make sure that when a player moves from A to B, the contract side of it, and you guys would hear it, openly known as personal terms. The public would know it as personal terms, and then personal terms is exactly what you just described now. That that intricacy between the player's contract with the club and the club's contract with the player, making sure that the club understand and agree to the terms and conditions that we, as a player and an agent, is putting to the club, and the club also reciprocating that and understanding that, okay, we will agree to go into contract with you for the next 2, 3, 5 years under these terms and conditions. So for me, I believe strongly that's one of the major areas where we as agents get paid from, because being able to negotiate that is very, very difficult, because when it's all said and done, a club don't want to give you everything.
Yeah.
The club don't want to give you everything, because they are strong believers in that if they give you everything, then what do you have to work for? But at the same time, we have to understand that it is a business. And if we put our player in the best possible position, he has that mindset to go on and focus wholeheartedly on that business, which is to play football. So we have to make sure that, the intricacy and the deal was correct. And sometimes that could be very, very difficult, and that can go right down to the wire. And sometimes that has also been known to, make deals not go through because the club and the player cannot agree terms and conditions, which is, again, very common.
Even away from club negotiations as well, unfortunately there are circumstances where a career path might not necessarily go the way of the player. Obviously your job also is to ensure that the player as well, to a certain degree, is building himself a brand as well. How important how important is that for a player away from playing football?
Well, in terms of building a brand away from playing football?
Yeah,
I think right now we have to understand we're in a commercial world. We're in a commercial world, and every player will be a commodity to an extent. And right now, with technology the way it is, with Instagram, Facebook, and other social media platforms, players have the opportunity to have a larger and vast reach to their fans, So therefore, they understand that. And I think for me personally, I've really understood that side of the game even more so, because a player does have that ability to reach millions of people that maybe he would never have the opportunity to reach if we didn't have these platforms set up for us, So if a player signs for a club and there was no Instagram, no Facebook, no social media, then he doesn't gain the 10 million followers. He maybe has these fans that come out and see him on a Saturday, or 40,000 people. But now he's got 10,000 or 10 million people that will just literally watch him getting out of bed, having a cup of tea, putting on his trainers. So, we know that there's the value to that, because again, content is become king at the moment, So, and with these platforms, it give players and clubs the opportunity to reach further and wider to new fans, and to fans that would not normally be able to be reached or to be touched. And I think players understand that. And if you can maximize that as a brand and as a product, again, that will go on to the player having success. So if you look at someone that we've spoken about, like a Paul Pogba, his reach, and the Ronaldos and the Messis, these guys, their reach is far greater and wider than the people that will come and see him on a Saturday or on a Wednesday or on a Tuesday playing, because they have built up such a brand for themselves because of who they are, and they've tapped into that. So now they know that they can go and get commercial deals based off the fact that if they put on this product, millions of people are going to go and buy that product. So therefore, for brand companies, it's going to make great business sense for them to position themselves with these people, because they will make a lot more money, because supporters and fans will go and support that brand that these superstars are wearing. And you know, it's just the way of the world, and it's just the way that the world has gone. And I think, you know, players and agents and you know, people behind these guys do understand that, and there is a marketplace for that. You know, whether you're a footballer, whether you're a celebrity, it is what it is. And I think this is the world we live in now. So I think players also have not just an earning potential coming in from the football club, but they also have a massive earning potential commercially from their image rights, you know.
Just to conclude,
Yeah.
what would be the best piece of advice you would give to any aspiring agents out there?
Best piece of advice I can give is just, you have to be determined. You have to be hungry. You have to be focused, because you will meet with a lot of no's than you would meet with yeses. And I think if you have that desire and you have that goal and you have that determination, you will be successful. But understand that it's not going to be easy. Understand that it's, you know, the status quo is that, you know, we have a great lifestyle and we're going to games and we're mixing and we're rubbing shoulders with superheroes. That's just at the end, and that's just a portion of what you do. But before you get there, you know, you might not want to work for 3 years without earning a penny. You know, you might not want to get up at 6 o'clock every day. You might not want to go and watch 7 games a week. You might not want to go, you know, to Manchester. Then you go to Leeds, then you go to Wigan, then you go to here, and, you know, you're trying to juggle all of that with your family. But you have to have that same desire to want to be successful, and that same desire to want to have an impact in the game. And if you do have that, and you are Teflon and you are teak in a way that you can deal with the no's, you will be very, very successful. And it's also important you get a great team around you as well. If you have a good team of people around you that can do the things that you can't, and you build a strong team, that will put you in a fantastic position.
Well, Eddie, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, getting so much insight from your experiences and stories. Guys, don't forget, you can like, comment and subscribe on this video. I'm sure some of you will, or plenty of you will have a lot to say. We'll have it on our socials as well.
Sure.
So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Eddie.
Ranty, thank you very much. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. And I'll love to come on the show again one day.
100%, man. We'll make that happen, man. 100%. Thank you once again, Eddie.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Take
care. Good night.